Totally. That's cool.
Okay, welcome everyone. So I guess we are good to go. So I'll just start.
Sure.
A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries, guests, and participants. I extend my warm welcome to all present here for the day 4 of third edition of India Gaming Show and Conference 2021, being organized by CII in association with Indian Digital Gaming Society and supported by the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Electronics and IT, and Department of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India. The theme of the third edition of India Gaming Show and Conference 2021 is Gaming for Good, Build in India, Build for the World. The conference, along with the show, is being hosted on the CII Hive digital platform, a dedicated multi-feature virtual online platform with a 24/7 help desk and a digital B2B lounge. Before we begin with today's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners, Google, Western Digital, Jet Synthesis Private Limited, Scientific Games, Hangama Games, Nodwin Gaming, Asus, Critical X Exports, Game.tv, and our content partner, KPMG, for extending their support. Currently, we have over 220 participants who are logged in and attending this session, both through CII Hive and YouTube. Further, I request all the participants to visit the virtual exhibition at the CII Hive anytime today or in the next 10 days. So before we begin our first session, I would request all the speakers to kindly keep their mics on mute and unmute while speaking. I would request participants to post their queries in the Q&A section, and we'll be taking them up towards the end of the session. So the first session for the day is a panel discussion on cracking the monetization code. The key focus areas for the discussion will be on how developers and publishers can crack the monetization code in India, the gap that India has with respect to other countries in terms of ARPU and ARPPUs, why conversion rates to paid users are low, and how the same can be bridged, along with the discussion on some of the innovative pricing models globally that we can take learnings from. The panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Girish Menon, Partner and Head, Media and Entertainment, KPMG India. Our esteemed panelists for the session are Mr. Manav Sethi, Chief Marketing Officer, Octro, Mr. Sharan Tulsiani, Games Partnerships, Google Play, and Mr. Sabyasachi Biswas, Games Marketing Head, Jet Synthesis Private Limited. So without further ado, I would now like to invite Mr. Girish Menon to kindly take the panel discussion forward. Over to you, Mr. Menon.
Thank you so much, Parul, and a very warm welcome to my panelists. And thank you all for taking the time out to to participate in this conversation. As also, thanks to all the audience members for taking the time out to listen in. Today, the topic that we wanted to spend some time discussing about is really the monetization potential of gaming in India, right? And what are some of the areas around that which need a little bit more deliberation. And I think, and the reason this point becomes a very relevant matter to discuss is if you really look at the India market when it comes to volumes, right? We've got what 400 million gamers today in India, and that actually puts us as number 2 in the world in terms of the number of gamers that exist. On the other hand, when you look at the size of the India market, we don't even appear in the top 10, right? And the reason for that is because the conversion of these gamers into paid users is actually significantly lower in India as compared to most other markets in the world, right? As a a quick reference check, ARPUs in India are somewhere around $3 to $4 on an average, as compared to global averages of $60. And here, I'm factoring in a console, PC, mobile, real money games, casual game, all of that put together. And when you sort of distill it down to casual gaming only, we are actually less than a dollar, which sort of highlights the fact that there is something that needs to be done to bridge this gap, right? And today, what I wanted to sort of pick the the brains of the panelists, so to say, is what are some of the ideas, the innovations, and that can be thought through from an India perspective? What are some of the underlying trends and reasons which is sort of holding us back from monetizing our gaming industry to its true potential, and what are the kind of things that we can do about it, right? So given that context, let me start and pose my first question to the panelists. And Manav, maybe we can sort of start with you. um, and let me keep this into a slightly wider question, right? If you were to list out, say, the top three reasons why we believe the monetization doesn't commensurately map with the kind of scale and potential of audience that we have, what are the kind of top three reasons you see that's sort of holding us back here?
So I think it'll be largely a factor of a comparison that you are drawing from the markets which have had deep-rooted history in console gaming, in PC gaming, right? Whereas India is a outlier of sorts where we have not had that sort of progression. We have sort of jumped directly into mobile. Mobile as such, that in 2019 we became the second largest smartphone geography on the planet, right? And yet, if you look at it from a penetration standpoint, we are still very, very small. From a gaming perspective, I think what we have seen in the recent past, and thanks to COVID, is a slight uptick in terms of not only the gaming, as a category or gamers as a cohort, but also sort of incremental uplift in ARPUs as well, right? And I think across the genre is the trend that you've seen, from RMG standpoint and from casual standpoint. Now, if you go back and draw out the reasons, right, which is what you asked, that why is it that from a ARPU standpoint we are not there as yet? I think what we have so far seen is the tip of the iceberg, right? It is absolutely new. I think if you look at it from a Indian mobile gamer standpoint, and if you sort of slice and dice using the GDP per capita, using the spend ability, and also availability of quality games, right? I mean, we have so far had global IPs that have come to India, and maybe from the install standpoint, we have seen a scale up, right? I mean, we saw how for PUBG, India contributed about 175 million or so, which was about 40% of their total installed base, and yet from a monetization standpoint was very, very small. When you look at the numbers, even a country like Japan, which is so advanced in gaming, contributed lower single digit of revenue, right?
Got it.
Right. But if you look at it from an impact standpoint, I mean, the day PUBG was banned, I think Tencent stock was down some 2-3%, and that was a $14 billion of erosion, right? So, there are ways of looking at it from a impact standpoint, but I think it's largely to do with the nascent industry that we are in. One. Second, I think if you look at certain kind of games, I think non-English speaking versus English speaking, cohorts at scale, right? I mean, I do remember in my OTT days, we used to talk about this wide chasm between Nagin and Narcos, right? Where Narcos, the English-speaking population will be like 150 million or so, and yet 500 million people or so on English. Like, who is making games from there, for the
Got
game,
it.
right? I think now also after PUBG being gone, the talk of the valley is that, who is making the next PUBG for India?
Got it.
I mean, we have seen some flavor of that in 4G, but we both know that, that is far, far from what, the experiences that are being expected.
Understood. Got it. Fair enough. Fair enough. So Sabyasachi, just to pick your brains on this, I think Manav made a couple of very relevant points, and I think we also spoke about it a bit earlier. I think the fact that while we still have 400 million users, it's still a very nascent market. A lot of these users have just sort of come up in the last 2 to 3 years, and maturity curve-wise, there is still some distance to go before they sort of become more regular gamers, and therefore graduate into the paying landscape, right? And similarly, you also mentioned this whole thing about us leapfrogging the whole console culture, right? So just wanted to pick your brains on this as to what, how critical are these two elements in in where we are today from a monetization perspective, and how do you see this evolving as we go forward?
So see, Girish, like obviously Manas made a very pertinent point there. Like, we skipped an entire generation of, gaming devices, and hence when we landed on mobile, there was a gap that existed in the market. The other thing that I want to address here is obviously the lack of options in terms of payment methods on
Mm-hmm.
platforms as such. I
True.
know a lot of platforms are catching up right now, but if you look at the demographic of a game, the larger chunk of users that have the potential to convert from non-paying to paying users would rather spend on UPI or any other wallet than have a credit card.
Right.
So that gap is slowly being bridged over there. I see that it's there on Google Pay, it's there on I think Steam is also catching up. So
Yeah.
that is one important bit that we need to address. The other point is that the culture of consuming content and paying for it lagged in India for a very long time. I remember growing up when, and I've been guilty of this. Can't believe I'm saying this on record, but back in school, we used to buy like CDs for Max Payne, GTA, and all those things. $30, $40, $50,
True,
and
true.
that's like what
Haila,
20 hours of
piracy.
gameplay.
Arey, police ko bula. I got you. This is my plan, dude. I'm waiting for 20 years for this to happen. I have you on video.
यार मुझे पता था
Sorry.
अभी फिर उस टाइम का जुवेनाइल क्राइम अभी जुवेनाइल कोर्ट में ट्राई होगा क्या पहले ये बता.
Arey, smart man. You know the law, bro.
Okay. So anyway, we've done this. We've all been there, and so the idea of paying for content, obviously, the OTTs had this problem in the beginning in the country. There was this challenge, but that they've overcome that challenge, that particular challenge. Even in gaming, it's not that we don't see people paying for in-app purchases as well. If I were to take the example of Clash of Clans, people do pay a lot for the season passes. Why?
Yeah.
Because it gives them a lot of value that that they don't get in their usual IAPs. So either the behavior is ki I'll grind and I'll get all these rewards, or I'll pay for my gems or my other in-game currency. But what a season pass does is it tells you, ठीक है, I'll pay a little amount of money and I'll put in a little bit of grind,
Right.
and so my value that the value that I'm getting out of this purchase is much higher. So I think those kind of metrics, they bring a lot of value to the user's journey in the game, and they work. So yes, the gap exists, but there are multiple ways of bridging those.
No, fair. And I think again, you made the point that you made on value for money and pricing. And Sharan, I think this is something I wanted to, talk to you about. And given your, play at Google, you have a more bird's eye view of, a lot of what happens when it comes to downloads and pricing and in-app purchases. And one of the things that I wanted to, which I sort of, I don't really understand why we haven't seen more of this is the pricing of games in India, right? I mean, if you really look at it, a simplest game, on a hyper casual level, even there, the IAP price in India is pretty much the same as to what you got to pay, say, in the US or anywhere else, right? Or if you look at the pricing for some of the products, or even over the higher end games, the price points are very comparable. On the other hand, when you look at the per capita gaps that exist in India, it's vast, right? So the whole value for money concept, which Sabyasachi sort of brought up, seems to be something which we don't seem to be seeing enough of on the gaming side of the equation. OTT, for example, seems to have learned and picked up on it, right? Because OTT pricing in India is far lower than what exists globally, even for global brands like Netflix and Amazon, right? So is there a trick that we are missing, or is there some reasoning or some challenges which is actually not lead to differential price points for India?
I think that's a great question, and a fairly deep and serious one. We can spend a lot of time on that. The reason is that it's not I don't have a blanket answer, but I have worked in this capacity and my time before Google with with game developers on India specific or emerging market specific pricing. Again, uh, there are a lot of companies, both on PC, not so much on console, but in the business of microtransaction, or through digital stores, that did some great work in the mid 2000, 2015, with say Brazil, which is an incredibly advanced gaming market, but had to be priced for, and saw that shift after they stopped, focusing on US pricing or Europe pricing. Now in India, I got to say that there is some bad data out there. I wouldn't say bad out of intention. I would just say that there is either a reasonable misunderstanding of what certain trends represent, right? And that's probably because they're rooted in less, in my opinion, less substantial arguments like culture, right?
Got it.
And I think sometimes they don't get looked upon as purely business metrics. Had we been discussing FMCG, you would have a lot more IIM guys looking at the numbers and going, hey, maybe this is a more complex trend. Let's not write it off as easily. That being said, I'm going to come back to pricing. So I think there's some companies that have done pricing really well. A short while ago, we at Google Play allowed developers globally to do what is known as sub-dollar pricing. So at one point in time, the lowest level you could go was $1, and then we did it, take it below $1. I think even Apple possibly has it. I'm not very familiar. Sabya Sachi comes from that ecosystem, so he might know. And what that showed us that, some devs are going all the way down to 10 to 15 rupees, planning it out as the first purchase. So the first conversion, right, was the hardest one, right? Get that conversion number going.
True.
We saw there was a lot of success with that. So there are some Indian developers that did some great work on the Ludo side that went from almost 100% ad revenue to now something like 75 to 80% ad revenue based. The remaining comes from IAP. There are a lot of global developers that did this, whether it's battle passing and kind of creating a value position rather than a value sensitivity angle. That actually worked very well. So one of the issues that we saw, so we did a study and we worked with our developers that were coming in from outside India into India. And there was this question that was asked that, how do we price for India? And the answer often when you go out and ask is, oh, India's price sensitive. But our understanding, and that's what we talk about when we do conversations with global developers, is think of it as value sensitive and not price sensitive. So you just have to make sure that you make the value clear, you add more value into the package, and you make you go after the bundling concept rather than just saying I'll give you X coins for this much money. Try to bundle more value in. That's been really successful. I mean, we saw that with PUBG, but I would say a company like Garena is doing it in a way that's far better than anybody else has ever done it. And if and when you get a chance to talk to people like Garena, you should ask them what they think of the Indian market. It's very different from what Indian and other global developers think of the Indian market.
That's interesting.
So pricing is two things, right? One is getting the first price point right, which I think a lot of us are getting with the first conversion. Second is value bundling, which again, a few have got. I still think a lot of Indian developers haven't figured that out yet. Octro being an exception, maybe Moonfront being an exception. But yeah. And Manav, maybe I could throw that back to you. You guys have seen a lot of success in this space.
You are absolutely right there, right? And it goes back to my learnings when I was launching Alt as India's first subscription-based video on demand platform with only 8 Hindi shows, right? And I mean, try changing the notion that Indians don't pay for content, right? And that's what we ended up doing. So what you said is absolutely spot on. I think when we were looking at Garena's number in April 2020, their own number said that 10% of total MAUs of Free Fire are actually paid MAUs out of India, right? And here is it that you have a casual gaming company which is talking about that, and we at Octro has already seen that, and last few years that Teen Patti has been completely chartbuster. We've seen it 2020 App Annie rankings. Octro was number 1 by revenue, right? and beating not only the gaming companies but also the OTT companies. So what you said is absolutely true, Sharan.
Understand.
Sorry,
So I
Girish,
think,
Girish, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I just want to say one thing. I've
yeah.
worked with Manav's team and Octo in the past, and a few other companies, and I must say that one of the things I find in common among organizations that are monetizing in India is there
Hmm.
is a obsessive commitment to business analytics.
Yeah.
Right,
Got it.
it's a very serious. There's a serious bunch of people with a serious team, and in fact,
Hmm.
you take out that team and you put them in any other business, they'll perform as well, because it's all
Got
about
it.
the numbers. So I just wanted to share
Understand.
that. And if you're a
Okay.
game developer listening, please take that to heart. Yeah.
Fair point. And Sharan, continuing with you, the other aspect of all of this, right? And this is, I find it, very interesting. When you look at the numbers globally, globally gaming is fundamentally a consumer spend driven game, right? Advertising as a proportion is a very, very marginal share. India, on the other hand, when you look at it, it's a completely flipped model in that sense, right? Where it's an advertisement-driven model at an overall level, and IAP is something that we've seen pick up, but it's more literally the last maybe 12, 24 months we started to see traction there. But at its core, India has been an ad-led model when it came to gaming, right? I think one of the things I wanted to maybe get your perspective on is uh, how deep is the ad market for gaming in India, right? What's the kind of traction that you see or you hear from brands or other gaming companies in terms of spending on ads on gaming in India, and how do you see this sustaining and evolving as we go forward?
Do you mean brands advertising in games or in general
No,
ad
advertising in
monetization?
games. So basically, revenues for gaming companies, ad revenues for gaming
Okay.
companies.
Look, in general, I'm not the authority on that. A lot of my time is spent in deep diving in sort of buyer conversion and that
Sure.
side of the funnel. In general, I have spent time in the ad network business before Google,
Mhm.
and it seems to me that gaming, when you look at it, you have to break it down by genre, right? So
Right.
I personally have never used the term casual gaming in the sense
Mhm.
that it's just so wide. I don't know how to define it. So I
Yeah.
would break down specific genre and go by. So for example, card games probably, really does well on IAP, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how important ads is for them. Maybe it's a supplemental revenue stream for a certain audience base. And there we go. I was saying Zero or was awesome. I'm not sure which one it was.
It was next to zero.
Next to
Yeah.
Zero.
For Octro, for us, there are only two larger streams, IAPs and real money gaming. Our
Yeah.
dependence on advertising as a contribution to our revenue is next to zero.
Perfect.
There we go. So, that's an Indian, and there's a bunch of Indian companies that purely look at IAP, and they're doing incredibly well, with their
Yeah.
valuations are crazy high. No, their value, I wouldn't call them valuations, the real value is very high. But when you look at hyper casual, when you look
Mhm.
at quick quick turnaround games, they put games that require the user to have high interaction within the first 3 days, but taper
Mm.
off within the first seven, first 7 to
Right.
10. So D7 or D15 becomes actually a genre defining metric that you
Mm.
use.
Mhm.
You can almost predict what genre game is just by looking at the metrics. You don't actually have to see the game, right? Or at
Right.
least,
Right.
I live in the matrix like that, so I look at data now like that. Uh, and that's where you have the difference between ads versus IP.
Right.
The more depth your game has, the more retention the game requires, the more you're building for IP. And I think India has been built for, and for a very long time targeted by companies in the first type, but that's changed significantly in the last 12 months.
Understand. And that's a very interesting takeaway. Fair enough. So, Bisachi, maybe just also get your perspective on this as a studio in terms of because as a Jet, you've got games across genres, right? How do you guys see the importance of ads and whether this is something that will continue to sustain and evolve, or do you see this flipping as we go forward?
Look, in a market like India, where, like mentioned before, where the consumer behavior is very contradictory in nature, Either the consumer wants to go through the entire grind and then level up, or wants to expedite that process. It all, I mean, in that scenario, it is essential for us to have an ad monetization method to our game, as well as create value for the user to convert into a paying user. There are a lot of games. We work on a lot of IP games. We work on a non-IP games. And in an IP game, let's say if you have something like a high value IP character that we're offering in the game, then we must create that appeal for the user to have. For example, I'll give you an example from another game. If I were to talk about EA Heroes, uh, I start off in the game with a basic Jedi Consular and a basic Temple Guard. But if I'm invested in that particular IP and I'm offered something like a Ray or a Luke Skywalker earlier in the game, instead of just a 1 star, if I get like a 2, 3 star early on for a very nominal price, I am bound to convert, because it makes me think that, ठीक है, let me skip that grind.
Got it.
So in that scenario, we have users like that. But we also, in the casual, in the hyper casual segment, like a lot of games that we work on, we know that rewarded ads are very essential. Like we know that rewarded ads are where we are going to, get our monetization, in terms of, we exchange ads for extra time,
Yeah.
boosters, power ups, and all those things. So I think it is sustainable right now. I don't know if Sharan is going to agree with me on this, but I think it's going to be sustainable for at least the foreseeable future in India.
Got it.
I just want to say I agree. What I mean is that we're never going to win. We're not 100%, and I don't think we need to be. We have too many Indias. We have too many people segments in India, and you have to address all of them separately. And you know what?
True.
You also are going to build games with different experiences, right?
Yeah.
Revenue is revenue. End of the day, paisa paisa.
Got it.
Right?
Fair point. Fair point. So, just also wanted to, Sabyasachi, just touch upon your perspectives on RMG. And before I come to Manav on this particular point, just wanted to get your perspective, because, as Jet, you are not in RMG, but that is one space which actually has successfully managed to, build out and, penetrate into the paid models, right? So just wanted to get a bit of an outside-in perspective, therefore, on what do you think makes it tick? What are the kind of levers because of which they've been successful, more so than your typical non-RMG products when it comes to getting consumers to pay?
So Girish, I wouldn't be the best person to answer that, because I've always come from a place where back at Apple we had a different approach towards RMG, and even at Jet we are focusing a lot on skill-based gaming. So I don't think I would be the right person to speak to that. I'd let Manav take that.
Fair. Manav, clearly you guys are, sort of into it and driving a whole host of, developments around this space. So just want to get your perspective there. When you look at RMG, when you guys decided to build out the space for yourself, right? What was the thinking behind it? Why do you think this genre has become successful, particularly in this whole paid, and paid culture among Indian gamers? What's the trigger there, and what's made it work?
So I think it is largely to again to do with the deep-rooted consumer behavior. Like having been in cards and casino category for so long, for us it was a purely logical, next step to do, right? Because if we have seen 150 million plus people already playing Teen Patti, the next logical step to for a platform to really figure out it, that what more you can go back and offer to them, and maybe in that process add 10, 20, 30 million more, right?
Right.
So that was our thesis. And more so, right, if you look at for any gaming company, right, what are we doing? We are at the intersection of sports and entertainment, and keep going back to the player and the consumer while creating enjoyment options at scale, right? Now, what could those options be? Those options be where you can choose to watch Netflix, choose to listen to Spotify, or then you can also play games. And in that games, when you look at real money game, I think one of the reason which Sabya also alluded to is largely the ability for a consumer to pay without any friction, right? I think that is something which was one of the very, very big impetus for real money gaming as a category to go. So on one side, you had these good gaming platforms, good gaming options, and good games. On the other side, you had this completely frictionless experience of a player's ability to pay multiple times and to withdraw multiple times also, right? Go back to your vast days where this entire two-way process was so time consuming, so capital inefficient, right? Today, thanks to UPI, thanks to Paytms, from a wallet standpoint, and thanks to the payment gateways at scale, this two-way transaction has become very, very seamless and almost instant, right? So I today process withdrawal within matter of less than an hour for my VIP customers also, right? So that brings a lot of trust to the platform that, hey, my money is not going out. B, that I can trust my money with the platform. And we both know, having spent significant time in India, that any such platform which is transactional in nature, trust becomes a mainstay beyond entertainment as an option only, right? So I am not for 1 minute, precluding the fact that underlying offering has to be good, sticky, right? So with all of that in place, I think skill-based gaming grew because of all this, right? And do remember that for skill-based gaming, the entire, gating of 18 plus, so going to the right TG, carving out the right audiences, showing them the relevant communication, all of that worked together.
Got it. So if I were to just take on from there, is it a function? Is it just a function of some of these points you mentioned, or is there a cultural and a habit angle also to this? Because if you really look at RMG, it's fundamentally card games which have seen a lot of traction, and card games inherent, and the card games which have seen success are ones which have been inherently having a very strong physical play already in play, right? People have been playing Teen Patti, Rummy forever in India, and for them to transition into a card, an online model, it sort of made a lot of sense for them. Similarly, when you look at the OFS space, it's cricket which has really seen the maximum amount of traction, which again is a cultural phenomenon in India, right? So the point I'm trying to understand is that is there, a lot more science to this, or is it more habit and culture driven? The reason I'm trying to get to is you also have this whole skill-based non-card games sort of evolving, right? Whether it is something as simple as quizzes or shadow, investing, and many other types of models that are emerging. Is this something that can be successfully transitioned even to those models, or do you see card and these kind of aspects seeing more traction as we go forward?
Very good question, right? I actually stumbled on a startup as recent as 2 days ago based out of US, where what they are doing is they allow you to wager on the basis of probability of a particular event happening, right? It is as basic as that, right? And they conform to all the US regulatory laws. So what you are saying is sort of two-prong approach, right? If you look at it only from card and casino standpoint, both from the value and the valuation standpoint in RMG space, non-card base have sort of acquired or accrued more value and more, valuation. So from a fantasy league standpoint, you have more players, you have players, putting more money, and hence the valuation going up. Teen Patti is still not considered as a game of skill, and which is why we have not yet, brought into RMG specter, right? But that entire ease of use, which is where you sort of build that cultural, excess, that certain behavior which has been in offline at scale, how do you bring them online and try monetizing those? I think that is the underbed. But while doing that, how do you sort of stitch the entire experience also differentiates you to what extent you will grow and what extent you will scale. And I think that's where we have seen humongous value. And as Sharan mentioned earlier on, very, very deep rooted focus on analytics and player behavior, right?
Got it.
And how do you sort of handhold them through the entire journey?
Understand. Fair enough. Sharan, then just another perspective from you is essentially, if again, given your presence at Google and the overall perspective you have, what are the kind of genres that you are seeing which seem to have the most the maximum potential to monetize from a paid model perspective, right? I mean, are there any commonalities? Are there any subsets which seem to do better than others? And I know you mentioned very briefly around the whole retention model, but at an early stage when when you're looking to build a game, when you're looking to build your strategies around this, what seems to be the areas and genres which are more geared towards paid models?
No, that's a very interesting question. It's something that we've spent time trying to get a comprehensive answer on, which can be tricky just given the rate that things are changing the last 2 years.
Right.
Let me know if my audio is choppy. I'll audio off here because I've lost my voice. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So from what we've seen on play, I would break this down as if you're a developer today pursuing an Indian audience and you're looking at generating significant revenue streams out of consumer spend in India, there are some things in common that I believe features or things in common that games have that tend to show the kind of stickiness that then results in spend, right? Let's first start with the genres. I mean, clearly, it wouldn't be surprising for anybody if I said the action genre is one of the top categories, with battle royale being a clear sort of top of the pack. And there was a time when PUBG and Free Fire were both number 1 and 2, right? And we could all see that. But then we've seen a reasonable appetite for board games. Again, no surprise there. And certain types of strategy games. And I'm going to keep what we call SCG, social casino games, and or card games aside. So I think that's a no-brainer. I don't think anybody needs to think of that anymore. The market has been defined. The leaders are in place. They've done all the hard work already. You can see what they're doing, and you've seen they're doing it well. But let's talk about something new, right? Let's say you want to try a new genre, you want to try a new strategy. I would start with what's in common. What's in common between between battle royale, a few of these strategy games towards the top, and board games. And what you'll see is that there are a couple of threads. One is they all have a real or seemingly social system, right? So you're either playing with and against friends or bots who look like they're real people, right? There's a level of social interaction. You can see that reflected not just in games, but you can see that reflected in the top apps in India, which is now these different versions of social video. I mean, video is great, but social video is killing it, as we can all see, right? And nobody can question the sort of insane cultural impact that TikTok had before it was banned, and all the other apps have come to replace them. So clearly, as a culture, to use that word, quote unquote, there's something about being seen or being known by other people that makes us stickier. And I don't know if this is the one or two few real cultural traits that need to be reflected in content. And so that's one thing. And I would say let that be your sort of guiding number one. Two is we did some research in 2019 that showed that the second reason after social that people, and this is a Google research, that people play games in India is they like the competitive element. And the third was a slightly different but overlapping occasionally user base, which said they actually had to relax. So people played games for three reasons. To sometimes just use up the time they had. I'm waiting for a bus, for autos taking too long, or I'm stuck in Ola, or I'm stuck in a train, right? That's number one. Two is I want to interact with people. I want people to see how good I am, or I just want to interact with real people, right? And you know what's amazing about what some of these battle royale games did, and also some of the Ludo games do, is they have voice chat. So you can chat with people. You can play the game in English, but you can talk to people in your language,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You don't
interesting.
you don't have to pretend to be good at English. You can be comfortable in that space. And of course, the third thing is you want to be competitive. You want to leave with a win in your life, and that's just gaming anywhere. So these are three things that I think if you keep in your game, and then of course you spend money on acquiring users in India, you'll do reasonably well.
Sure. Got it. No, I think very interesting pointers, right? And I just to take off from there, Sabya, just closing remarks also from your end. So once we think through some of the points that Sharan mentioned in terms of what kind of genres and what kind of games lend itself to better monetization. Taking it to the next level, how do you as a studio or as a developer think through on the technology and the user behavior, the understanding there when it comes to pushing ads or pushing IAPs. Are there strategies or models that are in place which will sort of enable greater monetization either through tech integration or knowing your consumer better than anything else. So how do you sort of leverage these two angles to push ads and monetization and IAPs? Rather?
Right. So, Girish, like I actually want to build a little bit on from what Sharon just said.
Sure.
That level of social interaction that games like PUBG or Ludo had to offer to people. Along with it, it also brought a layer of validation and gratification. So, I mean, if you really want to be in a social space, you want to show them that you have the best possible customization available to you, right? And you really want to show off your best outfits in the game. You really want to show that you're a rank 6 or a rank 10 player. And that kind of leads to an ecosystem where everybody wants to level up, right? So that is an inescapable fact of gaming.
Right.
It's been around, it's going to be around for a while. Having said that, there are these other two places as well where people do play games. People play games to relax, and people also play games to kill time, right? So when you take those things into consideration, then as a studio, you have to judge what is it that you have to offer to the user that can be monetized. If I'm making a casual game, I need to be very mindful with if my user is playing this game to relax or to be competitive. If it is to kill time, then I know that that a time multiplier or an extra life or an extra uh, a power up will be helpful over there, because I know that my user maybe they did not have the time to come back to the game more than twice a day. I take the metro twice a day. That's when I play the game. I'm not going to come back to it for an extra life. If I can monetize on that bit, I mean, through a rewarded ad, that's great. If I can offer it through an IAP, that's great. So like I said, there is no secret sauce to this. I mean, it's just understanding your consumer's behavior. It's understanding why your consumer is playing your game. And again, data is everything. You have to see where the user picks up, where the user drops, where the gap is, where the churn is. If we sit and if my product managers, if my games mathematicians figure that out really well, I mean, we've got it, right?
Perfect. No, I think that's fair, right? And it's very interesting to me that and I have looked at multiple segments within the whole digital-driven ecosystem, right? And with all the emphasis and technology, it still boils down to that one thing about knowing your customer, right? And it doesn't seem to change irrespective of what kind of offering you have and what kind of product you have and how deeply tech driven as a organization or business you are. It still seems to boil down to that one thing. And I think gaming, I guess, with all the data it generates, provides you that kind of ability to go deep into the customer psyche and then hopefully leverage that into both your products and your offerings. So I think that's bang on, and it just sort of reinforces pretty much all that we learn about consumer behavior and a whole list of other things. So I think I think this has been great, and I can see we're sort of running out of time. And if I were to just sort of pull all of this together, I think two three key things that came out to me was certain genres lend themselves better to paid models. Certain genres lend themselves better to advertising models. But whichever those genres are, ultimately knowing what your consumer is using your product for, and why he's playing that particular game will basically decide how you sort of monetize from him. And this is also true. Therefore, why RMG is successful and why some of the other models are taking longer to succeed. I guess so those commonalities seem to be, I guess, sort of coming through. And I think some of these other points that you mentioned about paying culture and seamless, frictionless payments and all, therefore also are sort of the bedrock of what is needed for monetization to, I guess, succeed as we go forward. So I think thank you so much, I guess, for your time. I don't know if you have any questions that are there, or we could sort of wind up today.
Hi, Girish. We do have one question, which is when will PUBG be launched in India?
They're asking the wrong people.
Totally. Right. So, I think we will, we'll pass it on to the PUBG team, but as it stands, I don't think, I think our guess is as good as yours. So, we'll have to wait. But great. Thank you so much to all the panelists for your time today and for your insights. And hopefully this has been an engaging conversation for, the audiences also. So thank you so much. File back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Girish, and thank you to all the panelists for taking out time and joining us today and for sharing your valuable insights. I'm sure it was really, we had some good takeaways for people who've joined us today. And with this, we come to the end of this panel discussion, and we'll be starting with our next session for the day at 4 p.m. So stay tuned, everyone, and thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Agarwal. Welcome, everyone. We now move on to the next session, which is a fireside chat on the next frontier, cloud gaming. This chat will focus on cloud gaming evolution across the world, how it can revolutionize the adoption of gaming across emerging countries, especially mid-core and AAA games, and what are the trends in cloud gaming being seen globally. We have two eminent subject matter experts for today's fireside chat, Mr. Mitesh Agarwal, Director, Customer Engineering, Google Cloud India, and Mr. Simon Donovan, Director and Game Lord, Google Cloud. May I now request and invite Mr. Mitesh Agarwal to kindly take the session forward.
Hey everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you're in. Welcome to the session on cloud gaming. Thank you, CII, for this wonderful opportunity to participate and present at the CII Gaming Conference 2021. I'm here today with my colleague Simon. He's called Game Lord here at Google. Right, Simon, glad to have you here. And discuss how cloud gaming is revolutionizing the industry and what are some of the global trends, and I'm sure Simon will speak a lot about that. And I'll try to give a bit of flavor around the India-specific trends that we're seeing in the market. Right? Just to give you some preview to all of you in the audience, your gamers, your game publishers, your game developers out there in the audience, what we've seen over the last 12 months is just phenomenal. It's life-changing for this industry. I think it's like inducing, massive amounts of fuel on a rocket ship that's, really going up. So while there's been massive, disruption because of COVID, what you've seen is the digital sales of games and esports, from free to play revenue models have really gone up. Live streaming has like massively multi-fold gone up. Cloud gaming platforms, they're bursting at their seams as we see it. Very interestingly, when I see India, the online gaming industry has grown so fast. As in, just a few years back, the CAGR of this industry was 22%. And very interestingly, it's been proven now that we're going to have a CAGR of almost 47% in FY22. Just imagine that's double, the CAGR. The other part which is very interesting is the investment that this industry or gaming sector is attracting. We had in the last 5-6 years investments of almost $1 billion just come into gaming industries in India. Another very interesting stat that I figured was just the game studios. We had about 25 game studios about 8 or 10 years back, and now we have 275 to 300 game studios, and this is expected to grow tenfold. So this is one of those few industries which is experiencing ailments like never before, right? Especially in the current times. There's so much of free time during the lockdowns that we had. In India, we played Rummy, we played Ludo King, we played the games of our choice. Queen's Gambit made chess popular all over again. Right? So there's really no better time than now to capitalize on all the increasing number of smartphone users, the penetration of data services, and advancements in delivering really low latency, extremely high performance games for mobile users, which is accelerating the growth of this industry. So it's been, that's kind of the background that I wanted to give all of you. And really, get Simon's views on a few areas. And I'm gonna shoot a question out to Simon out there and get his perspective. So Simon, you've been working with, gaming customers globally. What are you seeing as a big trends that are driving change within the gaming industry?
Sure, thanks, Mitesh. Thanks. This is a great conference I'll be watching locally here in the U.S. So happy to be here. It's a great question. I mean, I've been doing this a while. Really, I'm just a guy who's lucky. I've been playing games all my life, and I'm lucky to work in this industry. So a lot of times it's just a amateur game designer and avid gamer. That's really what I am. Specific to what you asked, and the industry trends, I think you hit it. It's interesting. I did a little reading, but it's interesting to hear your growth numbers with India. It is sort of considered one of the next largest markets that we're encountering now. In games, what we see here in the U.S. and some of the other global mobile and AAA publishers I work with. You mentioned COVID. Look, it's been a great thing. You know, you don't like to take a terrible thing and make it a great thing, but the fact is more people are playing games, right? I think the catch is twofold. One is how do you develop games, right? And we've seen, you know, sort of the downside in the games industry with COVID is there have been a fair amount of titles that have been delayed. How do you keep game developers? When I say developers here, I mean, you know, front-end designers, you know, game engine engineers, things like that. How do you keep them productive when they can't go in to the office when they have access to these large machines? And that's something we're really looking at. You know, we put it under virtual desktop or streaming desktop or core technology, stream from the cloud. How can we do that? That's going to be something I think, even when we return to normal, which we're all hopeful is going to be very soon. I don't think people are going to give this up. I think this model has actually worked well on the creative side. People like it. You know, I can have a much more international team. I can, you know, I'm forced to have other people across the globe really involved in my game design, which is something publishers have done. But COVID, I think, actually forced us to be even better at that. And I don't think that's going away. I think that model will stay, whether you are an indie developer with you know 10 people, or you know you work at a AAA title that we have, you know, 20 studios, 20 offices. So we see a lot in that area, and that's one thing we're trying to help customers. And just on a side note, you know, we also have Workspace. I'm more of a game server tech guy, but a CTO from one of our customers put me a really nice email thanking us for having Workspace, because COVID had forced him to use it in a way that he hadn't before. And so I think that whole idea of collaborating globally on titles, I think the game industry generally does it pretty well today. I think post-COVID, you're going to see that remain, and we're going to do even better job of that. So that's a big one. I would say virtual desktop. How do we help stream, you know, the developer environment? I think switching over almost to the whole other spectrum, which is the actual gamer, which is what we care about the most. You know, what we see is, yeah, I've been doing this a while, so you had a release that you bought. It was a DVD or CD, and you plugged it in, right? And then we went to online games, and we have franchises, right? They're big titles that they're like mega movies, right? Right? And now I think you're seeing another shift. I think this was maybe, it probably would have happened anyways, but COVID accelerated it. This concept of the game as a social platform. And there were plenty of other games before that were social platforms just themselves. But you're seeing games incorporate live concerts, for example. So I have an artist come and they come into my online game and they play a concert. This has been done by some major titles. It's also been done by some mobile companies. They got an artist, you know, to go perform in an event they had. And I think this concept of the game as a social platform, everything's come together to really make this something to think about. So I think if you know, for folks attending CII, no matter where you are in your title, everybody wants a franchise, but no matter who you are, you want to develop something that people are going to come back to and make it so cool that people want to do it again and again. I would challenge people to think about, you know, don't just have a chat as part of your game. What else can you do to make the whole game experience really social? We like this in cloud because what we tell you is, you know, you need a lot of data to do that, right? And I think what we see is with things like user-generated content or content that's part of the game to the side of the game, like a concert, right? The publishers that do this, they aren't guessing, right? They aren't saying, I'm going to try this thing and just see what happens. They're very, very deliberate about what they do. They have a lot of data on how users interact, what they like about the games. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as we get to data at the edge. But specific to this piece, if you really want to build a game that's going to become a social platform or be a social platform where people play but also interact, you need to really understand your user. You need to combine user acquisition data, with real-time game telemetry, with marketing data from us or another ad platform. Right? All of that needs to be centralized and understood. Just take a very simple example. So you have the social idea, this social platform idea. What about toxicity? Right? What about we sometimes call bad actors, right? People are coming in, and the challenge in games is sometimes your bad actors also spend a lot of money. So you have to be careful. You don't want to disrupt play. You certainly don't want to insult anybody. But it's not as simple as just kicking anybody off with somebody else. You have to be thoughtful about that. So we have a whole bunch of stuff around toxicity that we've been working with our customers on. So I think first and foremost, development, virtual desktop, that's a big thing. Second thing is, focus on the gamer. Game as a social platform. Can you do it, and what do you need to do it? I think those are two big trends we see, and something we're very interested in working with our customers.
It's also something no wonder I understand why I put thought. Right, but your insights into this has been fantastic, and I'm reminded of the great game developers Chen. There's a very nice quote that I read, right? And basically Chen said that look, games give you so much freedom, you can go anywhere you want, right? And you can be anybody you want to be. And that's what we all longed for in the last 12 months, right? To really go somewhere and really be, I love the part that we spoke about, the whole social platform being this, right? And we've seen that a lot here in India, right? What we see is, there's a massive appetite for content, right? There's a massive appetite for vernacular content. India is, a microcosm, is, a small gas node of, various languages, lots of local, flavors. One very interesting stat that one of the game developers CEOs told me recently, was that after Queen's Gambit, when chess became very popular, and they started launching virtual chess platforms, they had over 250,000 chess players. 250,000 chess players, who competed live, right? And some of the grandmasters who competed there as well, more as guest players, they were amazed with the sort of talent, that people that's power. Right? So suddenly we are finding, and this is what I love what you said around the whole social part of this platform and how this has now become a massive area for collaboration, right? Whether it's, and really, gaming has always been, from an entertainment perspective, a very different sort of value, right? Because I was reading some stats globally, gaming is 70% of entertainment revenue, right? Gaming, music, and movies as three categories. Gaming is about 70% of the revenue generated, by gaming, globally. About 8 or 10% music, about 20%, the movies, right? Films and cinema. Interestingly, that's what the trend in India, right? It's almost the reverse. The films are close to 70%, right? Actually, about 22%, and the remaining is music. However, I see the glass, frankly, half full out there. That's a massive opportunity for games, out there. And that kind of brings me to, kind of pick your brains around, what are some of the big trends that you're seeing? What are you seeing? What are we doing, at Google, helping game developers, game publishers, game studios, right? What are your thoughts on the Google respect?
Yeah. Just one thing you said that's interesting about games and the interaction you have with games. I was reading he said this article about how games, watching a movie, sedentary observing movie watching. Your brain capacity is and they test when they wire people up, with wires in their heads, and brain pattern, you can say that brain pattern imaging is about 20%, 20 to 30% of your conscious brain is active. When you're playing a game, 70%.
So you're telling me that, I should have my kid continue to play games?
More games.
Okay, awesome. Well, my kid's got a lot better things than 8-year-old. He's gaming all day, right?
It's the interactions, the sound, the tactile, and then of course the controller, you're feeling feedback, and of course you're watching. So, we still have a quota of game developers here that doesn't pass, but we do a lot of things. One of the things about tech trends, just getting to your question, and this might be, people might hear this and think, gosh, you guys are crazy, but one of the trends people talk about that there are some games that do this, but as far as like major titles, I haven't even seen it, might be out there, but there's this concept of the game that learns, the game that changes itself, right? So you and I sit down, play a game, I've been playing a game for 5 years, I have a whole different experience than you, right? And in some cases, this is the nirvana, because one of the biggest problems in games is churn. I quit. Sometimes we call that rage quit, right? I'm at the game, I quit, right? The key is, what are the 3 or 4 things I did before that could have told you I was going to quit, right? And that's what everybody's searching for, because if you're too into my space and you try to help me too much, you ruin the experience, right? If you read game design books, then there's a concept of flow, right? Where I'm challenged and I'm doing things that are new, but it's not so hard that it's like, my physics AP class where it was too much, right? It's just enough to keep me going. So we have one customer that uses to talk about data. They're data centralized. They use our machine learning tools, some of them specific for games. And what they do is they do a post-game summary for you. So you finish level 3 and you close the game. If you sign up for it, you get an email. The email says, hey, you did a great job. We noticed you had problems here and you struggled here. Try this next time, try this. And you might think of that and say, well, that's pretty cool, but they do that at scale, right? They have hundreds of thousands of gamers playing this. It's all done with machine learning. These emails are completely generated from machine learning. Now, you talk about tech trends, there's a couple trends coming together. One of them is 5G, right? So 5G for me, and there's a bunch of technical details, but really it's getting compute very close to the game, right? So right now, if I'm on a game, either a console or a mobile device, I'm going back to a data center somewhere, and then back, right? Anything you and I do with our 2 guys are fighting, it's all back to the data center, back to me. If I can bring that very close to where that gamer's having that experience, now you could take the example I just went through of this email post-game, and you could actually change the game. So the game changes, the game learns. And so now, the binaries of the game, the compiled game is on my mobile device or on my console. But if my machine learning model is just 20 milliseconds away, now I'm within a window of where you can see me having trouble with level 3, and you can actually open a door for me. Or maybe you can even send me a pop-up message that says, try this hallway, right? Whatever you want. Or you could send me a synthetic player. Maybe I have an assistant, right? We're used to these, all the great linear franchises have assistants, their sort of helper, whatever it is, a robot, right? What if that helper, those are scripted, right? They don't learn from you. What if your helper could actually learn from how you're playing? And I think with the convergence of 5G, game publishers already having tons of data, and these social interactions, people expect more from their game. They expect it to be more human. I think you're going to see more. We're right on the edge of doing this, and I think you're gonna have games that learn. So you're gonna have games that, depending on your level and your experience of just what you're doing in the game, they're going to be able to guide you, and you're going to have, I think the great thing for the gamers is you're going to have an even better experience. And then the great thing for the publishers is if you can figure out what people like, they're going to get more out of your game, they're going to play it more, maybe they'll buy that skin that you offer, right? So there's revenue opportunities as well as just creating these environments where they change depending on who you are. And I think that convergence, 5G data and the social platform, games becoming social platform, are going to push us, and you're going to see, I think, amazing innovations in the next couple of years to where these experiences are going to be much closer to what we want, and that's going to be good for gamers, and it's going to be good for publishers. So I think that's a big trend that we see, and my view of this is, for people out there listening, I don't think anybody's really figured this out, right? I think there's a lot of different tech, a lot of it fits together. I think our story around 5G and how we integrate with 5G, how we offer that with our partners is very interesting. But I don't think anybody's got the silver gauntlet yet. But that's something that I look for. And, I feel like we're very close. I think if you and I meet in person and I come and see you in a year or two, I think we'll have a couple titles that'll happen.
Absolutely, these were wonderful points. In fact, the whole network revolution in India has been amazing as well. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. So if you really look at India, has just got 3 networks, right? And we've got a population of 1.3+ billion people, right? Imagine the opportunities there, right? We currently have in India what is called India and Bharat, right? The vernacular word for India. And very interestingly, I truly call it the smartphone versus the normal sort of phone revolution. And how can we start begin to provide them content, experience, learning, the in-game part that you mentioned, using technology. Very interestingly, again, I'm going to borrow from a CTO friend in the gaming world, told me this, right? And he said, look, the gaming industry is, the ones that are producing content or publishing content or game studios. They are just a bunch of tech companies. They happen to be producing games, right? And which is why, they pride themselves in a lot of areas. And that got me thinking, saying, therefore, what are the problems, these organizations are trying to solve? On one side, as you rightly said, the gamer experience, right? And how you can monetize that, how you use data, AI, and ML, the toxicity part that you mentioned, the social platform part that you mentioned. But on the other side, I realized that, there were other things that I've been talking to the game developers, the game practitioners, the game studio companies. They tell me that, look, they love a technology partner that can be open with us. We have a technology partner, that can scale, for our needs, and not find us, in a particular way. We love performance by default, as you said, right? And nobody wants a bit of a pipe to go all the way up the network and back, right? So they love, for example, to have, as you pointed out, they did say, what if we could have GPUs at the edge, right? They absolutely would love the opportunity to monetize, all of that data. So what I've generally seen, is there is a huge appetite for this sign, right? So obviously, how do you provide these great player experiences at scale, right? How do you have open and customizable solutions for this industry? How do you have analytics and AI that drives, gamer outcomes? Because for them, for example, if you look at a live game, right, it needs real-time data and insights. That's how you drive those unreactive and very active users. That's how you take care of your KLTV, and so on, right? So do you have a smart analytics platform that can really drive in-depth gamer data for you? It's a question that we always get, right? And we're very proud here at Google, as you know, right, to really be able to provide that analytics and AI, for user outcomes and gamer. in this space, right? The other part that is very, interestingly emerging, is the whole data governance and security part, right? How do you, ensure that? And I think some of it is related to toxicity, as you mentioned. But a lot of it is also, there's a lot of personal data that, because of the age groups that gamers are in, they end up sharing inadvertently. So how do you, kind of protect it? Are there data governance standards around it as a big topic here in India? And finally, I think one of the things that I've heard people ask us here at Google, right, is that what can the entirety of Google get you? Right? Google Cloud is doing some amazing things on the tech front, right? You're providing scalable infrastructure, you're providing us databases that are amazing, you're providing us AI solutions that are amazing. They've heard about the bonus initiative, which I would, if you could share some light around that, open match initiative, and so on. But they also asked us, how can the ads part of our business, the YouTube part of our business, the search capabilities really come together, right? Can I use maps innovatively, right? Can I do ambient gaming? Gaming, I asked him, what's that, right? He said, what if I could convert a physical game, right, provide the same experience in a virtual platform, right? And therefore, fantasy leagues are really big in India, right? So some very cool stuff here, Simon, which is happening. I wanted to kind of, kind of pick your brain a little bit more, around the couple areas, right? One was that, you've been working with several customers throughout. So how's Google Cloud helping gaming customers get started on their journey, or whatever part of their journey they are in, right? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'll talk that one in maybe I call it the big G story. So, yeah, I think staying focused on tech, what you said is exactly right. I mean, Studio is a tech company that has IP. IP is very hard to build IP, very hard to release IP. And, I tell people on my team, in cloud, we build guitars for rock stars. That's what we do. So the rock stars on the stage with the spotlight, and we enjoy that moment. We just built the guitar. That's what we do. They take it to a whole other level, right? Creativity and technology. To focus on your point, though, it's a great way to say it. Studios are tech companies with IP, and I think the big difference, our approach is different in the industry. Our cloud approach is different in the industry from a technology standpoint, in that we're not, don't totally quote me on this, but I don't think you'll ever see a black box from us, right? I don't think you'll ever see a complete thing you just send an API call to. Maybe for things like Translate, our speech-to-text API is really powerful. People use that as part of their toxicity selection. So for stuff like that, black box. But when you talk about specific game technology offerings we have, my friend is a CTO at a big publisher. He always says, we like to turn all the knobs. We want all the knobs, right? And I think we've been talking about this for years in the tech industry. And the more you move towards automated, out-of-the-box solutions, the less customization you have. It's a law. You can't change it. It's the way tech works, right? In games, is no different. If you look at our offerings, you mentioned open match. Matchmaking, very difficult, very hard to, again, I'm an amateur game designer, so there's games I love and do a great job of matchmaking. There's games I play where I'm like, what are they doing, right? So how do they solve this hard problem, right? And so what we did was we didn't say, here's a thing, you just call it and it magically works. What we said was, we'll handle the servers. We have this great network. We'll make it fast. But as far as the rules of matchmaking, that's actually not our business. That's studios or publishers, right? And I think OpenMatch is a great example of us providing cloud scale, the big G scale, right? You're on our network, you're in our data centers, and we give you a framework to build a matchmaking offering that scales beyond your wildest dreams. As far as what the rules are, it's completely up to you. But what you don't worry about is, I'm in California, so I'm only going to allow gamers to play other gamers in California because my matchmaking is limited. No, you don't have to do that. you can create any rule you want, and anybody from anywhere can play anybody else, which is really what you want. And so that's an example of providing our backbone and infrastructure and letting you turn the knobs. And look, we may be wrong, but my experience tells me that if they are tech companies, these studios and publishers, they are tech companies, they want to turn all the knobs. And so I think if we can provide everything that we do well, right up to the point to where they can put all of their cool logic that makes their experience great, that's what's going to work. Having some magical game-only solution brought to you by GCP, I don't think so. Another example is hosted game servers, right? Kubernetes obviously, we gave them all Kubernetes, right? And so now it's everywhere, which is great. That's what we wanted, right? For game servers are hard, right? You have to maintain state, so you can't have this concept of like microservices and having no state. Very hard to do for games because I have to, if I put my sword down and I come back later, I expect it to be there, right? You have to maintain my state in the game. And hosted game servers basically allows you to scale up, container-based game servers while maintaining what you need to run a game. Again, it's not a black box where we say, call this API and everything's going to work. You get to work with our infrastructure in a way that's specific to games. So I think you'll see more when we have solutions around through hosted game servers, open match, real-time telemetry. We talked a lot about data, real-time telemetry, offering toxicity I talked about. So these are things you're going to see from us that are specific to games, specific to the scale of games, but not so specific that you're tied to something you have to do things a certain way. And that's just the bet we're making, right? That's, again, could be wrong, but we're meeting with a lot of these different folks, and they all kind of say the same thing. And I'll say what my friend says, I want all the knobs, don't take any knobs away from me. So we're trying to give you all the knobs, but also give you our skill. That's on the tech side. You mentioned one pool, and this is very important more maybe on the business side. Look, we do a lot of this, right? What we do at the Big G touches games all over the place. User acquisition, community with YouTube, obviously play, distribution on mobile, what we do in cloud, even, kind of far-reaching projects like what they're doing with DeepMind and Brain and all this other stuff. And I'm very proud, and I would say to folks at CII, push us, talk to us. The one thing I'll say about bringing all of us together, we do better when we get direction from you. Coming to us and saying, help me with my business. We'll have 10,000 of these, it'll be too much, right? But coming to us and saying, hey, I need help in this area. My game, I want to expand. I have a great AAA title and I want to expand in mobile. Can you help me? That's a specific question if we can help. I'm an indie developer and I want to get more exposure. Can you help me? That's an area we can help. So I would consult our viewers to definitely count on us for more of that, the one G story, and count on us in games to do more there. So push us. When you push us, be precise. It's not a lot of minutes. So those are my two things. On the tech side, what I see happening, and then on the one.
Thank you, Simon. I mean, we tested and lots of analogies coming on our mind, right? I love your poster, the fact it says circle of fifths. Clearly, I assume, all the music, you're a music fan, which is why you gave the guitar analogy out there. The people guitar, right? And the others are the rock stars, the gamers are the rock stars, right? If I just kind of, wrap up, with some of the thoughts to summarize, some areas that you mentioned. We're here to simplify things for gamers, right? Give them an amazing experience. We really help them, so essentially they focus on, as I said, an awesome performance on stage. This stage is the game, right? And we take care of the ingredients at the back, the tech at the back, right? The plumbing, the network, the databases, and all of that, right? We're happy to solve this together as the one Google approach of Big G that you said, right? We'd love to solve these problems, around data. Very clearly, we are seeing a whole bunch of AI/ML, related solutions. Some of them, you amplify, which is whether you want to increase game development speed, you want to improve player experience, you want to, improve efficiency of user acquisition, you want to have better player retention, better in-game engagement, for example, that you mentioned, and so on and so forth. So the whole role of data being, all pervasive, to therefore help you to build better games, scale your game globally, understand players more deeply with data, and really make this simple, right? Really make this simple for them, right? I'm going to kind of end with a very interesting thing, that I read, especially during the COVID times, right? It said, we break, we fall, but then we rise. We heal, we overcome because we are demons, right? And this is a t-shirt that I saw someday. And really, for me, I'm going to pick on an analogy that you mentioned on guitar. So G for guitar, G for Google and G for gamers, right? We go together, right?
Right.
And yeah, so Triple G, right? And we're here for all the gamers, and we want to thank CII for the opportunity. It was a great conversation, Simon, getting perspectives from you, the practitioner, giving my thoughts around the Indian gaming ecosystem. Right? It's been fantastic. I hope, there are some questions that hopefully, we can answer offline. But this has been an amazing experience, Simon. Looking forward to having you here in India. Right? Thank you very much.
I will be there. I will make the trip. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thanks, CII, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. My sincere thanks to Mr. Simon Donovan, Mr. Mitesh Agarwal for your time and for sharing your valuable insights with us. With this, we come to the end of this session, and we'll be starting with our next session for the day at 4:45 p.m. Would request everyone to kindly stay tuned, please. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We'll now move on to the next session for the day, which is a corporate talk. And today we have two corporates with us, Western Digital India and Jet Synthesis Private Limited. The speaker from Western Digital India is Mr. Jagannath Chelia, Director Marketing, Western Digital India. He's going to share insights on breaking the ceiling for PC gaming in India. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Jagannath Chelia to kindly take the session forward.
Thank you, Pearl. Okay, I need to share my screen.
Sure.
Can you enable it?
Yes, we'll just pass on the rights to you. You'll be able to do it now.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. And good afternoon, everyone. Okay. A warm wishes for a successful session from Western Digital to CII and with the associate partners. And so Gaming India is coming of age. Glad that CII has taken the initiative to do an industry government bridge to facilitate PC gaming ecosystem in India. Okay. What I'm going to do is to have a three-part talk for the next 20 to 25 minutes, okay? And then depending on what the responses, I'm open to taking some question and answers. Okay, I'll start off by talking about what is Western Digital, and then I'll give you our perspective of how we see the digital habits have made a significant change in the way gaming is being perceived in India, and our assessment of the PC gamer ecosystem in India. Lastly, what is the solution that Western Digital is offering to facilitate the growth of PC gamer ecosystem in India, right? So that's how I'm going to structure my talk today for the next 20 to 25 minutes. So let me start off by giving you an overview of what Western Digital is. Western Digital is the world's largest storage solutions provider. Okay? About 51% of global data is stored on Western Digital technologies. We have both hard disk based solutions and flash based solutions, starting with a small USB under SanDisk brand to high end of storage, say for a smart city where petabytes worth of data is stored, right? We have solutions for that type of requirements too under our Western Digital brand. You talk about mobile phones, you have flash memory inside it. You talk about cars today, so they have embedded industrial grade memory inside it. You talk about computers, they have hard disks or solid state drives depending on what you have and what you look up to for purchase. Okay? So in all these things, there is a storage requirement, and Western Digital has a solution for every storage need that is out there in the marketplace. We are a very, very strong organization focused on R&D and innovation. Our technology patents kind of rival some of the biggest tech companies out there. Okay, we have about 14,000 active patents. We have very, very strong scale globally. We operate across 156 countries, and we are a 65,000 employee strong organization. Most importantly, our customer value is derived out of some of the best brands that we offer in the marketplace to meet the storage needs of the consumers. At the high end of enterprise, as I said, we have our Western Digital brand. And then for consumers, we have a WD brand when it comes to portable storage. We have SanDisk when it comes to flash-based storage. It's a very popular brand in India. And then we have G-Tech. This is meant for media and entertainment professionals. The last brand, probably the most interesting and relevant one for today's topic, is WD Black. This is our gaming brand for gamers, specially meant to provide best-in-class experience when it comes to PC gaming. Okay. Now, so this is Western Digital in a nutshell for you. Let me switch gears and talk about digital habits and its impact on PCs and PC gaming. Last 12 months has been a year of transformation for us from a digital habits perspective, right? Never did we imagine that we will sit in the same room along with our children and family and do work, do shopping, okay, get our children to go to their classes and also socialize. So this has been the single biggest transformation that has happened, okay, ever, right, in the human history. What would have happened over a 5 to 6 year window has happened in a 5 to 6 month time frame. So this has had significant implication with respect to how we work, learn, and play on a daily basis. Now, okay, the interesting point here is this, okay, is the importance of gadgets and devices in our lives have actually grown manifold. We all know that our lives were revolving around mobile phones. Right? What has happened is, right, the importance of computers have also grown because of what's happened over the last 6 to 12 months. Okay. As a result, we have seen record shipments in personal computers, right? Particularly during a year where the economy has been significantly challenged. Okay, so right, it's an interesting dichotomy for us to observe. Right, for many years of downturn, the PC industry globally and in India in particular is actually showing growth. Okay, so this is a very interesting phenomenon for us to actually look at, and this transformation has happened primarily because of how our digital habits have changed over the last 6 to 12 months. The other important aspect, right, is the rise of PC gaming. So India, before the pandemic, right, was one of the largest markets for mobile gaming. Okay? But PC gaming, right, for reasons best known, has had its own limited presence. But today, because of how we create, consume, and engage, right, with our peers, gaming has gained center stage with respect to personal computers as an important use case. PCs today have become truly personal. So India is one of the very few countries where personal computers were always considered as a shared device by our middle class, right? So unlike the Western world where personal computers were truly personal, each one in a family owned a PC. So in India, it was always considered as a shared device. Even after laptops came into play, it was always considered as a shared device. That's when the true value for money mindset of Indian consumers come into play. They believe that, hey, you know what, this is a device that I probably don't need it often, and hence I can share it within family members. I anyway have a laptop at my office or a desktop at my office, so it can always be a shared device. That was a mindset with which we kind of skip the PC-led digital initiation, right, and ended up having a mobile-led digital initiation as far as India as a market is concerned. But this pandemic has brought the focus back on personal computers. Right, today, we work using a computer, we learn using our computer, and more importantly, we play using our computers today. Right? So there are some significant benefits that are related to PC as a device as compared to mobile. In mobile, the biggest benefit is portability and longevity in terms of life with respect to battery, another aspect. However, when it comes to creating content, which is exactly what most of us are doing today, and also experiencing content, when it comes to gaming, PCs form a completely different paradigm when it comes to experience. So this is one important change that has happened today as a result of the digital habits that has been ingrained within the Indian consumer over the past 12 months. The second aspect, which is the most important one for us to consider, gaming has got an image makeover in India today. So gaming was considered a taboo with a large Indian middle class, particularly with parents. They felt that it limits the physical activity of children. It affects their social life. It kind of corrupts the brain. That's the mindset. And uh, as a result, they consider it as a distraction from studies and a career limiting hobby is how it was considered before the COVID scenario. But come COVID, the scenario is now transformed for the better. Today, gaming is considered as a safe and contactless activity for everyone, including children and adults. It's considered as an important aspect to sustain our social life. Today, multiplayer gaming using mobile phones and more importantly, PCs, have become an acceptable norm of socialization. Gameplay is now being looked up as something that is going to improve the cognitive capabilities of people. It could be gameplay for professionals. It could be a gameplay for students. There is an acceptance right now that it is good for our cognitive capabilities. After office hours, it's considered as a stress relief. After school, it's considered as a great stress reliever. And lastly, today, it's being considered as a viable career option. It could be to do with a gamer, a streamcaster, or a game developer for that matter. So it's being considered as a viable career option. Now, PC and gaming. There are multiple devices today that are available for us to experience the game. Most of us are actually becoming a multi-device gamer. You play on your phone. Those who got consoles, you use your consoles, but more importantly, PCs is kind of now sitting at the center of this. Some of the rational reasons for people to adopt PC-based gaming is number one, performance. So PCs provide the best performance for gaming. Two, it's great value for money because once you do an investment, after that, the cost of add-on with respect to licenses, game titles, and other aspects is much cheaper in the PC ecosystem, relatively cheaper in the PC ecosystem as compared to a console ecosystem. Customization, PC modding, you can define what configuration you want. You can upgrade your device. This is one big benefit when it comes to a personal computer. Lastly, it's like a Swiss knife, So you can use it for a whole bunch of other use cases beyond gaming, So it's great value for money. It also has an experiential angle today, which is where people are beginning to migrate to PC gaming from mobile gaming. It's a largeness, So largeness of the experience when it comes to screen size, when it comes to sharpness in terms of imagery. The high level of immersion, immersion you get in terms of game integration and experience, It's the best. With 3D now becoming mainstream, you have the right kind of configurations today available to experience the best games out there, Lastly, the emerging technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality, give you the best experience when you have a PC-based gaming mode. So there are significant benefits as to why people are adopting PC gaming in a big way. Now, what we wanted to do as Western Digital is to actually look at how the PC gamers in India are today. What are their behavioral traits? How do they use their PCs, What are the experiences they have today, So in that context, we initiated a study using CMR to find out how PC gamers in India, are today when it comes to their behavioral traits and psychographic traits. We could look at two types of gamers. One is serious gamer and the other is casual gamer. Serious gamers tend to spend at least more than 10 hours every week, whereas casual gamers are spending like 3 to 4 hours every week when it comes to playing games. Age group, serious gamers had as much younger age profile, whereas casual gaming were slightly on the higher side. 31 and above was more in the casual gaming. Serious gamers actually were spending a lot every month. Approximately 1,600 rupees were spent, right, on in-game buyings, right? Whereas casual gamers, their spends were very, very limited, less than 800 bucks, right? When it comes to esports, serious gamers had a much larger inclination to actually look at pro esports, whereas the casual gamers were less inclined. We wanted to look at the demographic profile of people who are doing PC gaming. Interestingly, PC gaming, right, why the majority were from the younger age group, okay? Even the older age group had begun to take up PC gaming, right? So that's that's another interesting aspect. It's no more restricted to just younger age group, right? It's fairly evenly distributed across age groups when it comes to PC gaming, even within serious gamers and casual gamers. Now, the other interesting aspect is on the gender. Okay? So normally you associate gaming, more importantly PC gaming, with males, right? So what our survey actually told us was, okay, about 20% of casual gamers today, right, were females, right? So this is a clear indication of how there is a very strong migration both among males and females to move from their mobile environment to PC environment to have a better experience of the gaming. Okay. Now, clearly, laptops as a form factor emerged as the most preferred device. However, when it comes to serious gamers, they actually wanted desktops because they were able to build customized solutions for their PC gaming requirement. And a good percentage of them were actually creating their own rigs. Okay, so this is a very, very nascent industry right now, but we expect this to grow. What this clearly shows is the DIY market, particularly with gamers, is actually going to grow. It kind of stagnated for a long time, but it's now do-it-yourself gaming PCs are going to grow as we move forward. This is an important aspect for all gaming brands out there to actually consider. Now, we also wanted to find out what makes a great gaming experience for a PC gamer. The most important requirement for a PC gamer was to have quick load times. Okay? So they're looking for fast boot, and also moving from one game level to another, they wanted the loading to be pretty quick. Okay? Performance was also an important requirement, along with quality of graphics. Right? But the most important requirement was quick load time. Okay? When you look at what were the top pain points today for them, they were, it kind of correlated with their expectation from their PC, right? Slow game loading, along with network issue, were the biggest pain points today. Slow game loading has a very strong correlation with storage. Okay? Slow network is a function of the broadband, right, and the data networks which are being deployed out there. It's significantly improved. That's why you're able to do multiplayer gaming today. But then the pace of the game is also a function of the quality of the bandwidth they're able to get from a network. Okay? Now, when we wanted to dig deep to find out what they meant by slow game load, right? What kind of impact that has, right? The aspect which came out clearly was the storage, which is the drive in which the game is actually stored, had the biggest impact with respect to the experience today. Given the fact that the performance of RAM today has significantly improved, the performance of graphics card has significantly improved, and processors were always high on performance. The storage aspect is where the challenge was, because bulk of the market was on hard disk technology, where the speed of data movement from the hard disk to the processor to the graphics card to the RAM, right, is in megabytes, whereas everything else around it operates in gigabytes. Right now, we wanted to understand what is the install base of hard disk based PCs that the gamers in India are using. To our surprise, we found out that 3 out of 5 gamers in India are still using a hard disk. Okay? Whereas the key requirement to have a best gaming experience, right, is an SSD. Okay? You got to have, right, a solid state drive, okay? Be a SATA or ideally an NVMe-based solid-state drive to get the right gaming experience. Now, we also wanted to understand how they are managing storage when they have more than one gaming title in their primary storage, which is inside their computer. So gaming titles today are like, right, the big gaming titles you take are upwards of 100 GB. So you store 10 games, 15 games are completely out of space, right? So good percentage of them were actually deleting the games, and 1 out of 2 are actually moving them to external storage. Okay, so this clearly highlighted that the India market required the right type of internal storage based on SSD technology and external storage based on external SSD technology. So that's what we have actually taken it upon ourselves to bring in the best game drives for gamers in India. So we have actually introduced a complete portfolio of game drives under WD Black brand. We have 2 internal drives, SN750, which is based on Gen 3 technology, and SN850, which is a later based on Gen 4 technology, and runs using NVMe technology. So a really good and relevant technologies primarily meant for high performance to meet the experience needs of gamers in India. So some of them today have actually hardware where you can't actually use a Gen 4 solution, right? For that, we have actually introduced a card, an add-on card. This is predominantly desktop focused, with which you can actually slot and actually get a Gen 4 experience. It's called AN1500. I did talk about gamers storing content on their external storage. Towards that, we have 2 external drives, a WD Black P50, which is based on which is an SSD, external SSD, and P10, which is a HDD based solution. Both are really good for storing content, storing game content externally, and then taking back into their computers as and when they want. These solutions also provide necessary compatibility with PlayStation and Xbox, and also the desired portability. I touched upon WD Black SN850. This is one of the fastest performing internal SSDs out there. It performs at insane speeds of 7,000 Mbps per second. It also has an integrated heatsink to ensure that it absorbs the heat and keeps the gameplay mode for a longer duration. And it comes with the necessary RGB lighting, which excites the gamers in India. Okay, so this is one important product that we have found gamers in India have taken it up on themselves as the right product to facilitate the right gaming experience. Okay. Lastly, so Western Digital's role in developing the gaming ecosystem. So we as technology leaders are playing an important role in facilitating the development of PC gaming ecosystem in India. Firstly, we are sponsoring a lot of esports tournaments out there. That are either the ESL ones, or the esports club or the Sky Sports tournaments. Okay, we are consistently supporting them, encouraging them to propagate and popularize esports, PC-based esports across the country, so that you have a healthy ecosystem that is building with respect to users, so that you also have a lot of gaming organization, gaming developer organization, and gaming developers getting interested in doing PC gaming, and building a lot of solutions for that. So this is one aspect. Secondly, what we have done recently is to actually conduct a tournament, an esports tournament under WD Black Cup. Okay, so we have we have just about completed phase 1, which was an invitational tournament for top 18 streamers in India. Okay? And right now we are in the process of shortlisting the best teams for our WD Black Cup Open tournament. Okay? So here, we already got 128 plus teams. signed up, and we are in the process of shortlisting the finalists, right? So, so this is another important way in which actually we are encouraging, right, PC-based, right, gaming ecosystem development in India. In a nutshell, okay, PC gaming has become a mainstream activity today. The PC-based solution requires the right type of storage for the best gaming experience, right? I would strongly encourage, right, gamers, right, and the gaming ecosystem to look at SSD-based solutions and that too NVMe-based solutions, right, to get the right gaming experience. Okay. Western Digital is a global leader in storage technology. We have a complete portfolio, right, of game drives that is meant to elevate the experience of gamers in India. Okay, and right, we'll continue to play a lead role in enabling the PC gaming ecosystem in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Chelia. My sincere thanks to you for taking out time and for sharing your valuable insights with us. We'll now move on to our next corporate, which is Jet Synthesis. We have two speakers from Jet Synthesis Private Limited who are joining us today. We have with us Ms. Deepta Vijayan, Head of Partnership and Co-Development Projects, and Mr. Ashutosh Rawat, who's Associate Director, Performance Marketing, Jet Synthesis Private Limited. They are going to talk about co-creating a product for India with an international partner. And so without further delay, I would like to hand it over to Ms. Deepta Vijayan and Mr. Ashutosh Rawat to kindly take the session forward. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, I'm Ashutosh Rawat. My video is okay? No?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm heading performance marketing at Jet Synthesis. Basically, we are a homegrown gaming company where we develop good titles like Sachin Sagar Cricket Champion, WWE Racing Showdown. Meet my colleague Deepta Vijayan is here. Deepta, over to you.
Hey, thanks Ashutosh. Hello everyone, I'm Deepta. I'm Head of Partnership and Co-Development Projects at Jet Synthesis. So we are here today to talk about our latest game, that is Ludo Zenith. This is developed in partnership and close collaboration with the Japanese gaming brand Square Enix. In fact, this is the Square Enix game and we have developed it here in India. This is the first time that Square Enix has collaborated with an Indian company in India for developing a game for the Indians. Ludo Zenith is a fabulous game and it's in a very, very different kind of format. It's a 3D game. There are avatars in it. There's ranking system and many more. And it is developed for the mobile platforms. Ashutosh?
Sorry, I went on mute. So I said you rightly said because the creative and strategic minds from both corporations have come together in creating this mind-blowing game, Ludo Zenith. Because this is all new, the stunning features which creating a kind of entire entertainment to everyone who are playing it. And basically the feel of unique characters with special abilities make this game extraordinary, which is very different from other Ludo game which are using normal pegs like you. What's your take on this, Deepta?
Yeah, exactly. These traditional Ludo games are played with pegs that are so uninteresting. Or rather, we are so much, it's becoming a bit monotonous using these pegs. So we have given a totally, fresh look to Ludo Zenith. We have lively characters like Turtle, Rhino, Rabbit, and there is a surprise character that gets unlocked as we move up the ranks. So these characters are very beautiful, very animated, very lively. And along with that, they have their own special abilities as well. For example, if you are a rabbit character, then if you use the rabbit special abilities, you tend to move across twice the value that you get when you roll a die. And if you are a turtle, then you have the special ability to defend yourself from getting attacked from your opponent. And a rhino, this character is too good. Like if you are a rhino character and you have rolled a die, and when you are picking your character, then all the pigs that are there in the part of the rhino are moved back into the home. So we have really outstanding characters in this game, and this is really amazing.
Yeah, so Payal, can I share my screen because I would like to share the trailer video. So I'm not able to.
Sure.
Can you share if you can do?
Yeah, just a moment. Let me just take a look at that.
Yeah, Deepta, now you can share the screen.
Uh, I'm sorry.
Trailer, Rita.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Go to the second slide.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, you go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So basically, that's the gameplay. Like these are the characters that are very different from normal packs, and these are the arenas. And the best part is it's always like a strategic like kind of ranking system where as per the gameplay, people are just ranking up or ranking down, and on the base of your rank, you can open up for a lot of new challenges and new kind of opponents and new abilities. That's the amazing feature, that's make this a simple ludo game into a strategic game, and that's how it come from. Like it's a kind of collaboration where ludo is from India. It's basically most played game in India, and and all the strategy game, that ranking system is coming from Japanese. It's a very good collaboration of the core game from India, Ludo, and as in syncing up with the ranking system. So that's why it make this this make this game a very beautiful and a very different game, like altogether.
Well, let me just see how to stop sharing now.
No,
Okay.
let's keep it. Let's keep it. We have other thing also, and even I would like to add, so basically, the best part is you can defeat your opponent. You have to just strategize and conquer, and you have to make it different. It's not only like outcome, only the outcome basis. So we have dices, we have characters, we have abilities. Definitely any player can use them to strategize and to win the game, and on the basis of winning, basically everyone get rank up or rank down the pyramid just to reach the ultimate destination of Zenith. That's where everybody have to reach, and the best part, we can see our friends progress also in that ranking system, so depending, if my friend is he is at rank S, so he must be playing beach 3D arena, beach arena, or I'm at certain some other rank where I'm playing maybe a forest arena. So that's how the beauty of this game. Can you show Deepta, that 3D arenas on the slide number 3, just to give a feel, how it's look different.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so Deepta, can you share few more detail about this 3D arenas, how these are very different from other board games or other sort of Ludo?
Yeah. Basically, this game is like very interesting because you have so many special features in this. Like one of the things is that we have special dice where along with your regular dice there are these special dice that can be used, and these special dice can be rolled at the right time to beat your opponent player. Special dice have various number combinations like full seven, more than six, and you can choose your special die and stack dice to beat your opponent. And this is selected when you're starting a game. Okay, so. And then there is the energy dice that is also rolled automatically with the numbered dice in every turn. So this energy dice is something so unique in this game. Based on whichever is the color that you get on the die, whether it is blue or red, that player gets the energy. And energy is used for the energy bar, and once the energy bar is full, there's a circle around each character. So once that is full, then you can use the ability for your character. So that's why this is like really interesting, and it is like it's not like if it is your turn you get the energy. It could be anyone. So there is some mystery in that, and that adds to the fun of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And in fact, it is not just, so basically it's bringing our childhood memories, like, we used to play Ludo when we were like, very small kid or something like that. And that's not only thing, like, is we are actually bringing back our friends and families, by playing with the play with friends board. We can just share a code to our friends who are like away from us, and then we can have that bonding, and we can play in a very different way. And about, like, the game is like, the spatial die is like, if you are rolling strategically at the right time and to beat your opponent player, so it making a fun, like, and also because with other games it's only like, you can get 1 2 3 4 or 5 6, but yeah, with this game, with Ludo Janet, at least everybody have that option of using another dice, that a special dice where you can get 12 also, 7 also, depending, like, and that's the beauty of this game, what I feel like.
Okay, so I think we have one more video to show, right? Do you want me to show that, Ashutosh?
Deepika, yeah, so you can share.
So that's one of our influencers. You can talk about this video.
So there's no audio, but yeah, so I would like to share a few things. Like, we are like, so at the launch of Ludo Janit, we are doing a lot of influencer activity, like, with Ajinkye Rahane, or maybe with Salim Suleiman. But the best part is, like, everybody has enjoyed this game, and they are giving good reviews about it, and they really found it very different from others. Like, that's what the beauty of this game. Yeah.
So to sum it up,
Deepika.
Ashutosh, is there anything else, or we just go for the closing?
I think, yeah, we almost cover about the
I think
game.
we
Like,
covered
would you
everything. We're
like to
just
share
trying to
more?
keep it very short, guys.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have covered up, almost everything about this wonderful game. So to sum it up, Ludo Zenith is truly a unique game. It's a fun 3D game. You can play with your friends at home or in parties or in events. And as you guys can see, the whole idea behind our effort was to bring together the best of both worlds, the ranking system and the art of Japan, and blend it into one of the most popular games of India, that is Ludo. And In this game, there is one more thing, that is the ranking system, which is like, you can go up the pyramid, and the final goal is to reach zenith, that is the topmost rank that you get. And in that, there is a lot of fun. You go up, you go down based on how you win, and there is a total, it's like a competition to top, that is zenith. So you should definitely try it with your friends, and I think that even these characters and the 3D field makes it really fun. So so it's truly a fun game, and it's a 3D game, so you must try it. And after all, it is a game developed in India by Indians, along with Square Enix, which is such a global, gaming company in Japan. So that's all from our side. I think. Thank you.
Yeah, at the end, I would like to say, like, everybody should go and check out of the Play Store. They should just download this game and enjoy with your family and friends. I think it will be great.
Yeah, at the moment we have the Android version, so Play Store, but very soon we will be having the iOS version as well. So do check that out as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Payal. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
My sincere thanks to you, Ms. Deepta Vijayan and Mr. Rawat. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining us today and for sharing your valuable insights. With this, we come to the end of day 4 of the 3rd edition of the India Gaming Show and Conference 2021, being organized by CII in association with the Indian Digital Gaming Society. I once again thank our partners, Google, Western Digital, Jet Synthesis Private Limited, Scientific Games, Hangama Games, Norton Gaming, Asus, Critical X Exports, Game.tv, and our content partner, KPMG, for extending their support. My sincere thank you to all the dignitaries and participants who joined us today. I would urge the participants to kindly visit the virtual exhibition if not done so. We'll start our day 5 of the conference tomorrow at 3 p.m. Tomorrow, we'll have some very interesting sessions coming up with our eminent speakers. Do join us for that and have a wonderful evening, one and all. Thank you and stay safe.